#NoDAPL, American Indian Resistance, It's Not Too Late, Help the Dakota Access Pipeline by Jenica, Trang, Oren, and Martin. The 1851 Treaty of Fort Laramie created boundaries that affect Plains Indians in present-day Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, and Nebraska. Ultimately, the goal of the treaty was to establish peace with the American Indians so that the United States can create roads and build military posts or settlers to pass through. An estimate of 70 million acres was taken away. 3 years after the treaty went into effect, the Sioux Wars began. In 1868, the Treaty of Fort Laramie was revised to end all wars between the United States and Native tribes. This treaty established the Great Sioux Reservation, which takes up 25 million acres in present-day western South Dakota. In the following years, the Sioux began losing land. For example, in 1877, Congress took away land where gold was said to be found, and the Sioux lost the Black Hills, which became open for white settlement, especially the cattle ranchers. Eventually, after the Dakotas became states, Congress divided the Great Sioux Reservation in 1889 and established 6 smaller reservations, including Rosebud, Pine Ridge, Cheyenne, Lower Brule, Crow Creek, and Standing Rock. From 1948 to 1962, the Army Corps of Engineers built a dam located at Pierre, South Dakota. It is one of the many dams built to control flooding. The Standing Rock Reservation is located near the dam where a reservoir, Lake Oahe, floods the reservation. In 1982, the Northern Border Pipeline was built to transport gas from the Canadian border to Indiana. It is important to note that this pipeline goes through Lake Oahe and it mirrors the outline for the Dakota Access Pipeline route. Because of the insufficient pipeline infrastructure to carry Bakken oil out of North Dakota, Energy Transfer Partners, ETP, announced an oil pipeline plan in June 2014. A 1,100-mile crude oil pipeline was approved by their board of directors to transport crude supply from North Dakota to Patoka, Illinois, which will interconnect with ETP's Trunkline pipeline. From there, natural gas is converted into crude for transportation services. The pipeline route conflicts with the Standing Rock Reservation because it crosses land promised to the tribe in the 1851 Treaty of Fort Laramie. It also goes through Lake Oahe and creates the risk of water contamination and potential damage of the sacred tribal sites. In January 2016, the North Dakota Public Service Commission grants a permit for the Dakota Access Pipeline. South Dakota, Iowa, and Illinois also grant state permits for the project. Immediately after the permit was granted, the project began construction in 6 of the terminals in North Dakota, and the actual construction for the pipeline started in May.
On April 1st, 2016, the Sioux at Standing Rock Nation, as well as their ally, the Lakota Nation, established the Sacred Stone Camp. In that same month, the first protest camps were established by hundreds of protesters near Cannonball, North Dakota, inside the Sacred Stone Camp. Similar to the Occupy Alcatraz movement, No DAPL wanted a peaceful and prayer-filled protest to bring awareness to their cause. No weapons or alcohol were permitted within the camp. On July 25, 2016, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers granted the construction company authority to cross the waterways. The Army Corps also allowed for the nationwide No. 12 permit under the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1899. These permits put the pipeline on the fast track to completion. This fast track system is used in order to remove environmental or public reviews of the construction work. This approval only increased tensions between the protesters and the construction company. As the letter states, it does not eliminate the need to obtain other applicable federal, state, tribal, and local permits as required. This statement made in the third paragraph of the letter led to a more contentious state between the construction company and the Tribal Council, as the pipeline company would not come to agreements with the tribal councils of Standing Rock. On July 27, 2016, the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe sued the Army Corps of Engineers. The lawsuit involved two major complaints. Number one, enacting of the nationwide Number 12 permit removed the Corps' requirement to ensure that the sacred sites are not harmed in the construction of the pipeline. And number two, the construction of the pipeline would allow for discharge of wastewater onto sacred tribal lands, as well as lands half a mile from the reservation, a violation of the Clean Waters Act. During the months of July through August of 2016, Native American youth ran a relay race from North Dakota to Washington, D.C. The purpose of this run was to bring more awareness to the No DAPL cause, as well as hand over a petition signed by 157,000 people that was addressed to the Army Corps of Engineers. One of the organizers, named Bobby Jean Three-Legs, stated, "I hope we're opening a lot of people's hearts and minds to the reality that protecting water isn't just a Native issue, it affects everybody." In August, hundreds more protesters gathered in the Sacred Stone camp. Palestinian, LGBTQ, POW, MIA, and many other flags lined the camp as a testament to the different cultures brought to the Standing Rock site. On September 3, 2016 marked the first physical clash between the construction company and No DAPL protesters. The private security deployed attack dogs and pepper spray on the peaceful protesters. The genocidal armies of the West may have perpetrated far more heinous crimes, however the message of these private security forces were the same. Get out of the way or else we will force you off your lands, removing guaranteed rights for the representation and inflicting fear upon people who oppose the progress made by Western civilization. Above is media footage of the actual altercation between private security and protesters.
On December 4th, 2016, the Army Corps of Engineers announced that they will deny the Dakota Pipeline Missouri River easement. The Army Corps of Engineers also announced an extended environmental review while considering new locations for the pipeline. With the denial of construction, the Standing Rock chairman announced for protesters to return home. Many protesters, however, remain in the camps to ensure the end of the pipeline's construction. On December 5th, 2016, Energy Transfer Partners claims that they have a legal permit to begin construction. They claim that they have a permit that allows them to begin work even with the Marine Corps' easement of the pipeline. Legal battles have continued to this day. The Army launches its official environmental review into the Dakota Access Pipeline Missouri River crossing. Protesters are concerned with the safety of the pipeline as it pertains to the cleanliness of their local water supplies. This environmental review is said to take months, if not years. On January 20th, 2016 marked the beginning of a new presidential administration as Donald J. Trump was elected to office. The Trump administration's aggressive rhetoric towards the Dakota Access Pipeline indicates that the new president will waste little time in solving the issue. The Trump administration is seen by many as friends of the fossil fuel industry, which indicates continued support for the Dakota Access Pipeline. On January 24th, 2017, just days after taking office, President Trump released his first executive order. Fueling much controversy, the Trump administration's first piece of legislation would be to grant access to the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. The Army Corps of Engineers released the easement necessary to build the Dakota Access Pipeline underneath the Missouri River. In February 2017, Native Americans remained persistent and united in standing against the addition of these pipelines. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. still dismissed a request made by a group of indigenous people seeking to stop the construction. As the native tribes of Standing Rock, Sioux, and Cheyenne River have expressed their desperation for keeping their water and land clear of oil, they are also fighting for the purpose of religious practices. With the DAPL project in progress, it will potentially interfere with the Oha Lake, an area surrounded by the Native American sacred ground. This ruling made by judges allow the Energy Transfer Partners to continue to complete the final 1,100-foot pipeline under Lake Oahe in North Dakota. Energy Transfer Partners argue that the tribe's fight against the pipeline is not just construction related as they proceed to build on this project. In early February 2017, the governor called an emergency evacuation order for the protesters out of concern for the safety of people who are residing on U.S. Army Corps of Engineers land in southern Morton County and to avoid an ecological disaster to the Missouri River. A letter was issued on February 3, 2017, demanding that the Osidi-Sakowin camp needs to be evacuated by February 22nd in order for private contractors to proceed with the removal of waste from the camp. Governor Burgum planned to request more than $33 million from the federal government to use on law enforcement and cleanup bills related to the Dakota Access Pipeline protesters. Despite the government's persistence on removing all protesters, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe remains united and states that they will demand a fair, accurate, and lawful environmental impact statement to identify its true treaty rights, including its water supply and sacred places. The government grants the easement which permits the Dakota Access Pipeline process to begin. The CEO of Energy Transfer Partners argues that the threat of water supply and harm of sacred routes are unfounded, simply to justify their actions of installing these pipelines against the indigenous people's fight. On February 22, 2017, a violent arrest began as protesters still occupied the area after being requested to leave before or by the date from the governor. Those who were arrested are at risk for a $5,000 fine along with prison sentences for up to 6 months. Since the beginning of the protests during 2016, approximately 700 arrests have been made. The Native American tribes received abundant international support as well. This is footage of one of many arrests made on protesters at the Standing Rock site.